Good evening. Our top story tonight, the Saints are, quote, not actively trying to trade Marshon Lattimore at this time, despite no rumors being present that the team was trying to trade Marshon Lattimore. So a very conspicuous message from Mickey Loomis regarding the status of his veteran cornerback. That is our top headline. We will talk about what this means for Marshon Lattimore. Is he going to be a Saint in 2024? If he's not a Saint, where would he go? What does that mean for the Saints going forward, for other teams going forward? A lot of clouds looming around that situation as the Saints look to be just as much of a mess this year as they were in 2023. We also have reports of Aaron Rodgers and his health going into 2024 that we'll discuss. And finally, to round out our headlines, we'll talk about the 49ers receiver situation. Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel were being talked about in trade offers between the 49ers and other franchises. We'll talk about what's the latest in their situation and what we can expect going into 2024 as we prepare for our fantasy seasons. And then finally, to close out this Saturday show of Player Profiler today, we will go through the rookie draft values so far post-draft. We'll take a look at current sleeper ADPs and talk about the players that I am buying most at current cost. And it all starts right now on Player Profiler today. Hello, everyone. My mic was muted. I'm starting to think that entire intro was not heard by anybody. All right, so we're gonna quick rewind. Player Profiler today, Saturday show. Apologies for the technical difficulties. I'm your Saturday host, Matt Babich. The intro, which I believe now is muted based on what I just saw happen to my microphone. Marshon Lattimore. Mickey Loomis is sending some mixed signals regarding the status of the Saints veteran cornerback. So we're going to talk about that situation and what it means for the Saints, for other competing teams in the NFL going forward. We'll also talk about the health of Aaron Rodgers and that latest update, as well as an update on the Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel situation and what we can expect for 2024. And then we'll close the show out with some rookie values. Again, sorry for the technical difficulties there, but I'm your Saturday host, Matt Babich. Happy to be with you all. It's rookie draft season. I'm in the middle of rookie drafts. I'm sure you guys all are as well. You guys and girls out there. It's quite a time, but it's a little bit of a slow time for news, which is why the biggest news we have today is Mickey Loomis going on the radio and saying that the Saints are not actively trying to trade Marshon Lattimore at this time. This is a weird thing for a GM to come out and say, because there was never any rumors that Marshon Lattimore was going to be traded. And I don't know about you, but I generally don't go out in front of my competitors and say, hey, just so you know, just so it's clear, I know everyone's asking, I'm not trying to trade away my players. Okay, stop asking me if I'm going to trade away my players, because I'm not going to do it. I have no interest in doing it. I believe the first thing that ran to everyone's mind is, okay, so the Saints are trying to trade Marshon Lattimore, and they're trying to get the word out as slyly as they can think to do it. And in very Mickey Loomis fashion, he decided that was not from, leaking an internal source, pretending that a trade conversation had already happened. No, it was going out on the radio and saying that we are not trying to trade Marshon Lattimore. It couldn't be more clear that the team is open to trading Marshon Lattimore. And this rings true in what Mickey Loomis had to say. He said he's an elite cornerback. So he made sure in this message on how he wasn't going to trade Marshon Lattimore to perfectly state where he values Marshon Lattimore. So he's going out there and saying, I want to trade Marshon Lattimore. He is an elite cornerback, and this is the return that we are going to look. So if anyone's seen the league when they tried to make some trade offers slyly during their toast at the wedding, like this is that. Mickey Loomis is going out on the radio trying to bait GMs into sending him offers from Marshon Lattimore. When we look at a team perspective, the 2023 Saints, although they were close to a playoff berth, as everyone in the NFC South, not named the Carolina Panthers, was, but they were a disaster of a team, and it was very clear from their draft that that's not going to change going into 2024. So this is a mess of a team that is getting in the twilight years of not only Marshon Lattimore's contract, but his tenure as an elite cornerback. So the rubber is meeting the road here with Marshon Lattimore, and the team knows it's time to sell him for what they can. The issue is they can't do that until June 1st. So prior to June 1st, he would essentially put a $16.6 million cap loss on the books for the Saints, which we already know they can't afford that. But then after that June 1st deadline, he then becomes a $4 million cap save on their books. So for the Saints, it's not so much as saving capital versus not saving capital. It's the move they can afford versus the one that they cannot afford. And they can't really afford any cap against them right now. So after June 1st, it becomes no cost to ship away Marshon Lattimore. They can even release him for the same cap savings. But again, this isn't about cap savings. So this isn't going to come down to a release this season, but they're going to try and trade for him. My guess is going to be that by October-ish next season, Marshon Lattimore will be wearing a different jersey because the Saints are going to start out with a bad record. They're not going to be winning football games. Atlanta, who is quickly surpassing them, is going to run away with that division. If anything else, it's going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the incumbent division winner. So the Saints are the third worst or the third best team in their division. Not going anywhere. There's going to hit a point where they're going to have to ship out Marshon Lattimore. So who's he going to go to remains the biggest question. Who's he going to and when? So probably within the first 6 to 7 weeks of the season. And it's going to be to a competitor that lacks the secondary depth. So the team that immediately comes to mind is Baltimore. We saw Baltimore not be able to slow down passing attacks all throughout last season. I mean, it was evident that their secondary was going to be trouble for them when they played the Cleveland Browns and let them just compete down for down, snap for snap with this team. The Joe Flacco-led Browns, who got absolutely embarrassed by the Houston Texans. The Ravens could not figure out a way to stop that passing attack. And the way to do that is by getting an elite cornerback finally. And their avoidance of the position throughout the significant rounds of the NFL draft leads me to believe that maybe the Ravens are already trying to make a play for a cornerback in the trade market. And it's why with their current roster, Marshon Lattimore would make a lot of sense. This is a defense that they're in their window. The Lamar Jackson Super Bowl window is right now for the Baltimore Ravens, who still lack that secondary depth to really get them over the hump. They did take Nate Wiggins in the first round, but then again, they didn't take their next cornerback until the fourth round, and they're still rolling with Brandon Stevens over on the other side. So unless TJ Tampa can become that diamond in the rough, which doesn't happen often, then this team is still going to be missing something on the other side. And this is all assuming that Nate Wiggins is the guy. So it would make a lot of sense for Baltimore to double down on that position by trading for Marshon Lattimore, who could be just a short-term rental for the team. They trade away some capital and get a guy who has a contract structure to where they could get rid of him at the end of the season. No harm, no foul. So they wouldn't get in any cap struggles with this. It could all around be a really good move for the Baltimore Ravens. In addition, the Houston Texans, who have been making splash signings, splash trades all over the place, could very well be in the market for Marshon Lattimore. They have Derek Stingley Jr., but again, you need two cornerbacks in this NFL that can be reliable and consistent. And although the Houston Texans were an incredibly efficient defense last year, Jeff Okudah is not a starting cornerback for a Super Bowl team. He's not. So the hard truth is they have to be in the market for somebody. They still have the cap room to bring on Lattimore and not have to worry about any restructure that would require them to lose some long-term flexibility. So this contract situation could really work in the favor of Houston Texans as well as they look to build out a contender. That would be my favorite landing spot as somebody who really wants to see the Texans kind of break through the mold. But the Colts could also be another team that could be in the mix here. Again, a team that with Anthony Richardson on their rookie contract is looking to get the most out of this window. We're seeing all of these teams with these elite quarterbacks on rookie contracts. This is when they try to go all in because they have the most flexibility. And Marshon Lattimore just adds to that equation, being able to help out that secondary that's currently being led by Juju Brents and Dallas Flowers. Again, not a star-studded cornerback duo. So being able to get a lockdown player like Marshon Lattimore is absolutely vital for this team's pursuit of a Super Bowl. And then the dark horse candidate, I don't know if it would make a lot of sense. I don't know how much I would like the move, but I could see the LA Rams doing what it takes to get Marshon Lattimore on their team. I don't know on the books how this would work cap-wise, but we know that there's always a way to get around that. So the Rams would be a dark horse candidate because they've already hinted at trying to come out of retirement and play in the playoffs should they get there. So it wouldn't be surprising to me at all to see them make a play for Marshon Lattimore, really try to strengthen their defense up as they make the playoffs, get Aaron Donald back, and somehow try and push for a championship. Now they noted that he knows it's probably not going to happen, but if he's talked about it, it means he's thought about it. If he's thought about it, who knows what's going to end up happening there. But my prediction is going to be that Marshon Lattimore, this is without looking at cap or draft picks immediately or admittedly, but just off the top of my head, my gut call is that Marshon Lattimore is going to be traded to the Baltimore Ravens at some point this season, probably by mid-October. He won't be traded to a division rival. I don't think he'll be traded in the NFC. They'll ship him to the AFC. Baltimore, who's going to be willing to pay the most to get Marshon Lattimore on their team. Before we take a quick break, we have Richie Mercado in the chat. Think of these late round picks. I only had a third, fourth, and fifth. I'm a Hall owner, so all the receivers got sniped. So Braylon Allen fell to me in the third, and then drafted Ray Davis and Vidal. Well, you hit the nail on the head here. Like, we're going to talk about Ray Davis and Kenny Vidal after, later on in the show. But those are two phenomenal late round picks. Braylon Allen is not necessarily somebody I'm willing to spend a lot of capital on, but if he fell to you in the mid to late third, where I've seen him go a lot, and you had Breece Hall, I can get behind it. In a Dynasty Best Ball league, I own Breece Hall. And it got to the late third, early fourth round, and all of the RBs that I would want on my team were taken, and Braylon Allen fell to me there, so I took him. So I don't hate that either. I think we both kind of, just from the sentiment of your message, kind of agree that we don't love Braylon Allen, but being a Breece Hall owner does kind of change things. Braylon Allen, if Breece Hall misses time, could be a very good value in fantasy football. So he's one of the premium handcuffs because he does have that size to be a bell cow RB, and he does have the path to being the clear RB2 in the offense. So I don't hate that either. We're going to take a quick break, but right after this, we will get back with more NFL news. Aaron Rodgers up next.
This episode is brought to you by PlayerProfiler, the Dynasty Deluxe package. The rankings are the best in the industry. It includes strategy mode where you can say, hey, change the rankings to be win now. Oh, change the rankings to be productive struggle. There's also a draft planner to help to strategize where you should take players because the draft planner also includes ADP. There's a trade finder where we look up on My Fantasy League and we see trades that are done, including a particular player. Then there's a trade analyzer where you can plug in draft picks, players, and we assign a lifetime value to draft picks out 5 years. The best thing about our trade analyzer, it can't be gamed with volume. And there's mock draft data to see right now what's the why, including in the fall when very few mock drafts are happening. And our Dynasty guide, the Dynasty Dominator, would cost you $10 on Amazon, but you get it for free with Dynasty Deluxe, and you get our rookie guide for free, a $25 value. So you get all of that for $45. I mean, it's a great deal.
It is a phenomenal deal. We are back with Player Profiler today. I'm your Saturday host, Matt Babbage. Go get the Dynasty Deluxe on playerprofiler.com. I've been subbing since way before I started contributing here to this site since 2017. Seeing this site come to fruition over the years has been an incredible experience. So, all right. I don't know about that. It's a stretch. I get it, but Braylon Allen really hasn't been playing running back his whole career, so you have a bit of a point there to where he does kind of lack some of that long-term running back experience. This is not his true position, but converting to running back at Wisconsin and still breaking out at the age of 17 is very impressive. A 12 touchdown season on 1,200 rushing yards, nearly 100 or nearly 200 rushing attempts as a 17-year-old after not playing running back really at all in your football career. That shows he's got some talent. And so as a Breece Hall owner, he was actually one of the running backs I was scared of because he has that untapped potential to where if he does kind of be that genie that comes out of the bottle, it could really be a thorn in Breece Hall's side. Now, Breece Hall is a mega talent, somebody you give the bell cow share to, but Braylon Allen has the mold to be somebody who just completely surpasses what we thought he could be. Into the news, Aaron Rodgers. Report came out that Aaron Rodgers is reportedly not going to see any sort of setbacks or limitations in upcoming minicamp. Now, I know this is news because it's being reported, but we all expected this, right? Aaron Rodgers was cleared for football activities miraculously before last season ended and would have came back should that team have made the playoffs. So it's very obvious that he was going to be fine coming minicamp, and I think this is good for him. Like any reps he can get in addition with this offense is going to be important. Year one of a new offense with a new organization and surrounding talent, that chemistry takes time to build. And as much as Jets fans are excited for this season, and rightfully so, it's scary knowing that like they really don't have any games together under Aaron Rodgers. But my news is get ready for the Jets to be good. And it pains me to say this as a Patriots fan, but get ready for the Jets to be incredibly good this year. I'm very bullish on this team in terms of their win totals. They have an upgraded offensive line. They went out and signed tackles in Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, and then took Olu Fashanu, a stud out of Penn State. And so he is a tackle. We're not exactly sure what this offensive line is going to look like right now, but even on the surface without Olu Fashanu, they massive upgrades to this offensive line. And then they bring in Fashanu, who they'll be able to figure out the combination that works within this offensive line. They'll figure it out. So a massively improved offensive line and added weapons with Mike Williams and Malachi Corley to play the slot. And then they already have a mega talent in Breece Hall in the backfield on top of this elite defense. So before I've even mentioned the quarterback, you can already tell just on the surface, this is a really good roster. We took a very good Jets roster. We gave it key improvements in wide receiver and tackle. And then we get back our Hall of Fame quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. I understand he's a year older, but this is one of the people that has taken care of his body the best. And throughout the years, whose body has not failed him. I mean, it's been tough to go back in history and look at the last major injury that Aaron Rodgers had. I don't know if anyone can necessarily think of it off the top of their head. This is not a guy who gets injured a lot. And he takes care of his body. He's still very talented. We saw the way he was making throws in preseason. Like, I understand it's preseason, it's mini camp, he's in shorts, but you can tell when some of these guys start to lose it a step in their arm, and he has not looked like that. Even going back to Green Bay when he was playing with a broken thumb, and he was still slinging the ball like the best of them. So this team is going to be really good. Aaron Rodgers is now essentially a full go, and he's going to be fully recovered from this injury by the time he comes back. It's not a plant leg injury, so he doesn't have to really worry about that. He doesn't have to drive the ball with this leg, and the Jets are going to be good, and they're going to win the AFC East. The Jets are your AFC East champions. This shouldn't be a hot take at all. They have the best roster, top to bottom, and this is going to be a team that's going to compete to hit the AFC Championship game. The experience as a team, playoff experience, is going to be what gets to them, but this is going to be an incredible team. And speaking of great teams, perennial contenders, the 49ers were in the news all of draft week because they were listening to offers for Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. Then they proceeded to take Ricky Pearsall in the first round, continue to say that they were in talks, hearing out trade offers for Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. Then they continue the draft by taking Jacob Cowing in the 5th round. So they added receiver talent. We're actively trying to move those two assets. And then kind of turned everything around, and they said, we're done with the Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel trade talks. Like, we're done trying to trade them, is what John Lynch went on the record saying. Again, just like the Mickey Loomis stuff with Marshon Lattimore, I too try to trade away my receivers, draft their potential replacements, and then tell everybody, hey, I'm done trying to trade those guys. Those guys I just drafted their replacements for, yeah, I'm done. I want them. I don't want those guys anymore. No, the 49ers are still very much open to hearing what the league has to offer for Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. This is still very open. This is bad table talk, bad bluffing by the 49ers front office. That being said, I don't think they're in desperation mode to trade one of these assets. They're a Super Bowl team that's running into a situation where they can't really afford to keep Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel together on the same team. So yes, from a pure contract scenario and a pure value standpoint, it makes the most sense for the 49ers to get what they can out of these guys before it's too late. But they are also in their Super Bowl window. So this is not a situation where a team calls their bluff and says, you don't want to lose Brandon Ayuk in free agency, so you're going to take my 4th round pick, or 2nd and 4th round pick, this low ball trade offer. You're going to take it because you have to take something. This is not one of those situations, because I firmly believe that the 49ers are going to stand pat unless they get a proper offer. For the 49ers, what does giving away Ayuk or Deebo on a low ball offer do for you this year? You lose that production when it matters most, in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl. They're not willing to risk that. They're not willing to risk not making it to the Super Bowl or losing the Super Bowl again because they didn't have enough surrounding talent with Brock Purdy, or enough talent surrounding Brock Purdy. that's a risk they won't be willing to take. So they're open to hearing offers, but I'll put my money back guarantee on it right now. Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel will be in 11 and 19 in red, respectively, for the 2024 season. They will be 49ers throughout the season. If you're making your bets in fantasy football based on thinking that one of the two are going to be traded, I will urge you to exercise caution there, because it doesn't make a lot of sense for the 49ers to get rid of them in the middle of their window. And even if they get traded, it's more than likely to a situation where one of them goes to Pittsburgh, for example, and is going to be seeing a lot of opportunity. So make your bet on the realistic outcome, the non-fan fiction outcome of Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel being 49ers for the rest of the season. If for some reason you're wrong, take solace in the fact that somebody who needs a receiver is going out and making that deal. So you're not going to necessarily lose out. So be comfortable drafting Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk in rookie drafts. As always, we're kind of pushing the envelope in terms of time, but let's quick go into some rookie values. So we're on draftsharks.com, who has aggregated some sleeper data. Let's see, I made it bigger. That's easier to read. Maybe one more. Perfect. So we are looking at sleeper, dynasty, rookie, PPR, superflex, ADPs. So we're going to go through and just kind of highlight the biggest values here before we come to a close. So as we get down to the first round, I think that these two names, Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson, are values. Benson much more so than Brooks because of that capital difference. The 2.5 for a running back that is arguably the RB1 in this class in Trey Benson is laughable. It's laughable because one of Keon Coleman or Ricky Pearsall is going to bust. That is just what is more likely to happen. When you broaden that spectrum, when we look at these wide receiver hit rates at the back of the first round, Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas, Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, Ricky Pearsall, one or more of them is going to bust. Like that is an absolute fact. At least one of them will. It could be multiple. And even when they do hit, let's take Jordan Addison, for example. He goes to a good situation in Minnesota. He has that first round draft capital, and yet he was still a low wide receiver 30s, high wide receiver 40s. It didn't do that much value for your roster, where Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson offer immediate year one value. I don't care what you think about the Carolina Panthers offense, and I don't care what you think about James Conner. Both of those running backs offer year one value. And to have some of these wide receivers who are probably going to bust over them is how you lose dynasty leagues. You should have been recruiting receivers year after year after year so that when you're a contender, you can continue to get guys like Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson at the back of first rounds. You can get your RB1 at the back of the first round, and you can continue to profit and revolve these running backs that, even if they're good, don't make it to their second contract with the team. So I'm going to take the 3 years of Trey Benson, or 3 to 4 years of Trey Benson being RB1 in Arizona. I'm going to take the 3 to 4 years of Jonathan Brooks being RB1 in Carolina. I don't want to see if Ricky Pearsall becomes the wide receiver 3 of San Francisco within the next 2 years. I don't want to see if Keon Coleman can hit a 25% target share in Buffalo. I don't want to see if the Los Angeles Chargers offense can sustain Ladd McConkey. I think it can, but I don't want to see it. I'd rather take the guaranteed touches. And so Trey Benson is the biggest value through the through the first half of the second round. And Jonathan Brooks is also a value just because he should be in the conversation for 109. That's why he's a value. I have Benson over Brooks just personally, but Jonathan Brooks on paper with his profile should be taken over some of these receivers. And then as we continue to go along, we see Jalen Wright at the back end of the second round still. Absolutely. Again, offers day one value. Marshon Lloyd at 3-1, also a value. Troy Franklin, Roman Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Legette. Someone's going to bust. This always happens. But then we get these running backs with rounded skill sets that go into situations that can get your one opportunity. We can't deny that value. We cannot. And that's why this draft, in fact, a lot of dynasty drafts over the past years, it's once you get out of the first half of that first round, you start looking to the running backs because they have the higher hit rate. You don't have to play these gambles. If you're taking a Roman Wilson, you're trading him in the first half of the season when he hits that peak value. When the upside is still unknown, but the floor is now known. When the floor becomes safe and the upside is unknown, that's an incredible time to sell some of these prospects because the odds of them hitting their ceiling and becoming that locked-in guy are pretty low. So you can take advantage of that, or you can have a year to 2 years of RB24 value from Marshon Lloyd and Jalen Wright. It's just a safer bet. Ben Sinnott at 3-2 is a good value. Even in non-tight end premium leagues, he easily profiles as the second best tight end in this class. He has incredible pass catch ability, run after the catch talent. He's an all-around prospect and goes into a situation where he compete for a lot of targets early. We've seen the tight end in this Cliff Kingsbury offense in the NFL get some looks. And so this is knowing the answer to the test, right? Like getting Ben Sinnott at 3-2 and then avoiding the trap of Jatavian Sanders, avoiding the pitfall of Braylon Allen, avoiding the gamble of Javon Baker. And then by the time you get down to the end of the third round, you get to just rejoice and take Jermaine Burton or Audric Estime or Will Shipley. Again, this is when the running backs continue to provide that value. Jermaine Burton's going to be potentially a starting receiver in 3 receiver sets for Cincinnati. Why are we taking Marquise Irving at 3-8? I don't know how he's up there. That feels wrong. I don't think I've seen him go in a draft yet. That feels like a incorrect value there. Oh, this is Bucky Irving. I'm just dumb. I'm just absolutely dumb. Marquise Irving is Bucky Irving. You learn something new every day. But why is Jalen McMillan going over Jermaine Burton? These things just don't make any sense. Like, he's a starter on a team that runs some of the most 11 personnel in the league. So Jermaine Burton is a huge value. Estime, who can be an RB2 in that offense right away, going at 3-10. Will Shipley being the new Kenny Gainwell, the better Kenny Gainwell at 3-11 is also great value. I personally prefer Dylan Laube because he has the most unique talent in his backfield. Dylan Laube is the best pass catcher by far in his backfield and offers the most versatility there, whereas Will Shipley does have to compete with Saquon Barkley. But an incredible value in Dylan Laube. Will Shipley is somewhat of a value. Big value here in Estime. Big value in Jermaine Burton. Call me crazy, but a mid-4th round pick from Malik Washington is asinine. This is, again, somebody who can be the wide receiver 3 in a team that had a lot of 11 personnel out on the field last year. So why isn't Malik Washington somebody who could be a starter on this offense being drafted over a guy like Jacob Cowing, over an unproven talent like Theo Johnson, over Devontae Walker? it doesn't make sense at all when you break it down. Even Luke McCaffrey going below Devontae Walker doesn't make any sense. And then as we keep going, now see, this is how I know that this is outdated, because Ray Davis is not a 5th round pick. A lot of these have been pretty consistent. I know Ray Davis is not a 4-9 pick. He is up here in this area. You should honestly probably switch Braylon Allen and Ray Davis. That's a more realistic way to view the situation, is by flipping those two, because we're going to keep going down. I haven't seen Tyrone Tracy Jr., who's also a good value. But he's not even on this list, I don't think. So we're also missing Tyrone Tracy Jr., who's a value. So those are guys who are going in the 3rd round. I think any running back going in the 3rd round right now is a value. So Estime and Shipley are priced pretty efficiently here. Like, this is right around where they're going. But Ray Davis is a mid 3rd round pick. It's now to the point where Garendo's closer to a mid 4th round pick, if not a late 3rd round pick. And Tyrone Tracy Jr., who, again, I can't find on here, is a mid 3rd round pick as well, alongside Ray Davis. So outside of that, a lot of this is going the way I see them in rookie drafts. But outside of really just every running back where they're priced right now is a good value. I can get behind pretty much anyone in the class besides Braylon Allen for reasons that I described earlier. And then some of these receivers that are just in really good spots, like Jermaine Burton, are really just going underlooked right now. And Malik Washington, like, those are guys that we need to be paying attention to. Don't take the Malachi Corleys of the world, who are just buried in their depth chart and whose coaches are already saying that they're raw, route running wise. Don't take, I do like Javon Baker at cost. I think there are other options that I may end up preferring as a dynasty manager, being like taking an Estime or another running back there in the 3rd round. But I don't hate Javon Baker at cost. I love Javon Baker personally, but that was, a little peek into some current rookie draft values. I know that website Draft Sharks definitely had some inconsistencies there, some outdated data, but there's a lot of value in rookie drafts. To kind of sum it up, any running back this year where they're priced is a pretty darn good value. Just avoid the pitfall of the magical, mysterious upside of these receivers, and just start hammering running backs at those values. Get your Malik Neighbors as early, in the draft. Let the 1Bs, the betas, let them go to other rosters, take the value in running back. But then, do be paying attention for the guys like Jermaine Burton and Malik Washington, who look to be starters in an offense that is high powered and pass first. That's going to do it for Player Profiler today. Thank you all for tuning in, and be sure, catch us live again tomorrow night on Sunday, and you can catch me back here as always next week on Saturday. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a great weekend.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com. Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.